Fox Sports Radio.
Here we go on a Friday. Maybe we'll have breaking NFL quarterback news today as well, live in Los Angeles. This is The Herd. Wherever you may be, however you may be listening, Fox Sports Radio, iHeartRadio, FS1. It's a Sweater Friday, and Alex Curry is now joining me, filling in for Joy Taylor, who is back Monday. I felt like I wanted to, it's winter, and even though we're in Los Angeles, I felt like, you know what, I feel like it's, I got a little winter thing going on now for the next 2 weeks. I'm going to go with it.
It looks good. And it's cold everywhere else, so it's kind of like you're showing a little compassion for everywhere else in the world right now.
By the way, our thoughts and prayers to people around the country. These stories, my wife and I last night, looking at the stuff in Texas.
It's heartbreaking.
Oh my God, it's heartbreaking.
It's heartbreaking.
So we're thinking about you. It's great to have you on a Friday. So yesterday, Carson Wentz got traded right before the show. And this morning, another story came out. God, I have never seen in my life two franchises that regularly go to the playoffs, the Eagles and the Texans, capsize in 2-3 months. The Texans literally are taking on water, and they don't have any life preservers. And Philadelphia this morning, they get worked in that trade with Carson Wentz. And the story out today, they're not going to give the quarterback job to Jalen Hurts. He's going to have to earn it. Oh, boy. So you hire a head coach, young kid, Nick Sirianni, who butchered his press conference, appeared incredibly nervous, unproven, going into a vicious, verbal, intense city with a quarterback competition. I don't remember a time when two, winning franchises, Philadelphia and Houston, have capsized in the offseason. And the offseason just started 2 weeks ago. And I was thinking about the Carson Wentz deal. Obviously, Carson Wentz wins yesterday. He gets a better O-line. He gets a better culture. He gets a better GM. He gets a much better now coach. He gets better weapons. Philadelphia's defense is fine, but I think he gets a little better, younger defense, obviously. But the winner in this is also the NFL. And when you're a well-run business, and I've defended Roger Goodell for years, the media doesn't like the NFL as much because the NFL has power, and the NFL doesn't need the media. The baseball in the NBA, they need the media. So what you'll find with the media is they talk way more NBA than actually there is interest in the NBA. And baseball, because of the newspapers and the box scores, have always had a great relationship with baseball. That's how I grew up. It's how everybody grew up. You go to the newspaper to get your box score. Not as much now, but certainly how many of us are 40 or 50, that's how we lived. But the NFL doesn't need the media. They don't need newspapers. They don't need me. They don't need the radio. And the media likes to feel needed. And the NFL doesn't need them. And for years and years, I always said this about Roger Goodell. I'm like, by and large, this is by far and away the best run league. They don't have nearly the issues of the lack of competition in the NBA. NBA kind of feels like coastal. Baseball, there's the rich, everybody else. But this Carson Wentz deal, this is why it's so great for the NFL, and the Matt Stafford deal for the Rams. The bottom third of teams in any sport don't matter. You're never judged by that. When Michael Jordan ran the NBA, the bottom third of the league was dreck. It was awful. It didn't matter. You don't put them on television. Your network partners and you are not putting them on television. So it didn't matter that the bottom third of the NBA during Jordan's era was awful. Same with Shaq and Kobe. It doesn't matter. If the top of your sport is good, where your best players are on your best teams, hopefully in traditional powers, Green Bay. You want Green Bay to be good in the NFL. You want Pittsburgh to be good. You want the Celtics, Lakers to be good. Miami Heat in the NBA. These are really good, well-run franchises. But Carson Wentz was wasting his talent. What you don't want is Matt Stafford for a decade wasting his talent with the dysfunctional Lions. What you don't want is Mike Trout with the Angels. You want Mike Trout with the Dodgers. I mean, Mookie Betts is an amazing story. I'm a casual baseball fan. I love the postseason. I'll watch a postseason baseball game over a Thursday night NFL game. I love baseball postseason. But Mookie Betts goes to the Dodgers. It's the first time in 10 years. I can't wait for the season to start. He had so much energy and so much juice. It was nothing against being in Boston, but they've been kind of last couple of years rebuilding. You want your stars in the right places. So right now, Stafford to the Rams, from the bottom of the league to one of the better organizations, and Carson Wentz escaping the dysfunction and going to a top 6 or 7 roster, huge win. Now, both of those are in the Super Bowl hunt. Right now, this morning in the NFL, I looked it up. Half the NFL is 30-1 or better odds to win the Super Bowl. Half the league, 8 NBA teams are. You want your stars to avoid dysfunction. Anthony Davis with the Pelicans did nothing for the league. Anthony Davis with LeBron, now we've got a story. Now we've got a dynasty. Bradley Beal for the Wizards is awful for the NBA. He's an unbelievable kid, an unbelievable talent, wasting away in Washington. You put him on the Celtics tomorrow, you put him on, Rockets. That's how league, because think about the NFL. The games that matter for the NFL is the 4 o'clock game on CBS and the 4 o'clock game on Fox. Sunday Night Football on NBC, Monday Night Football on ESPN, and Thursday night games, they stand alone, they matter. Where you can bury teams is the 1 o'clock Eastern window on Sunday. You can put the Jaguars on there for years. They disappear into the ether. There are 7-8 games. Nobody watches them. You only put them in like 7% of the country. Leagues hide. The NFL hides its bad teams. But it makes sure it gets its stars at 4, Sunday night, Monday night, and Thursday. Get your stars. That was one of the deals when Fox got Thursday night. Fox went to the NFL and said, can we get better games? We'll promote the hell out of it. We're good with the NFL. We'll take care of it. You got to give us better games. And so suddenly, what did the NFL and Fox do? They gave them more divisional games. Ravens, Steelers, Packers, Bears. That's why Thursday Night Football with Fox has been better. Because they gave us better games. Remember when Thursday Night Football used to be on the NFL Network and you get Jags Titans and they'd wear goofy uniforms? You're like, this is bad product. NFL finally figured it out. And so this is so good. Wentz goes from dysfunction and chaos to an incredible football culture. Huge win for the NFL. Now you got another Super Bowl team. Stafford goes, super talented, from the dysfunctional Lions to the Rams with other stars. So when I look at these moves with all these leagues, this has been a great. When did Stafford get traded? It's been a great 2 weeks for the NFL. Stars in the right places, like Zion. I hope the Pelicans get it right. I really do. I do. I think they're well run. But if he's there 7 years and makes the playoffs once, that's bad for the league. You don't want Zion buried on a 500 basketball team. I mean, think about Kevin Garnett. He was a stat monster in Minnesota for years. He wasn't on television. Nobody taught. He was just a really good. You had to be a diehard NBA guy to follow it. Then he goes to the Celtics and he becomes one of the 3 faces of the NBA. And everybody loves Kevin Garnett. Now he's on television. Now he was always a smart, interesting guy. Nobody knew about him. He was in Minnesota. It's like Death Valley of the NBA. He was this great player just wasting away. Then he goes to the Celtics. He's a top. We talk Kevin Garnett all the time. That's what sports needs. And that's where the NFL's hit 2 home runs in the last couple of weeks with Stafford and Wentz going. By the way, Deshaun Watson, just throw this out there, deserves better. Deshaun Watson needs to go to a winning organization. He's too talented now to be buried in Houston with that coach and that owner and that nonsense in the front office. So the NFL can really hit the lottery. If Deshaun Watson goes somewhere that's functional, you're going to have Stafford, Wentz, and Deshaun. Chaos to functional. Huge win. That'd be like 3 Bradley Beals going to the Celtics, Lakers, and Spurs. Huge wins for leagues. All right, now here's something I don't understand. So Stafford's off the market and Wentz is off the market. So there's 2 guys left. There's the super talented Deshaun Watson. We all know he's great. But to get Deshaun Watson, you got to give up massive picks and players. To get Sam Darnold, who is cheap, talented, hardworking, and only 23, you have to give up nothing. Because of the Wentz deal, it probably makes it easier to get Darnold. Because if Wentz only got what he got, Darnold's probably only going to get a second-round pick or a third round. You have to give up nothing to get him, and he doesn't cost anything. Meaning if you get Darnold, you don't have to give up anything to get him. Here's two teams that if I was running the Bears or the Washington football team, I'd be on the phone this morning. Like, there's a lot of teams that want to upgrade quarterback. We know San Francisco isn't in love with Garoppolo. But Garoppolo does win games. We know Carolina doesn't see Teddy Bridgewater as a long-term guy. But he's a pretty darn good quarterback. We know Atlanta would eventually like to move off Matt Ryan. Matt Ryan's going to get Hall of Fame votes. But there's two teams in this league. They have winning head coaches. They have great defenses. They were playoff teams. Washington and Chicago. You don't have a quarterback. What are you doing? Are you sitting around and waiting? And there's only two guys on the market left. Nobody's going to go big, in my opinion, except maybe New England after Garoppolo because of his injuries. That's a really dangerous space to be in, to sign Jimmy for a long term. In Chicago and Washington, winning coach, great championship level defense, playoff teams. You can get Sam Darnold for almost nothing. What are you waiting for? Mariota is a limited thrower and has injuries. Garoppolo, injuries. I'm sitting here thinking to myself, Washington, this division is yours if you can be competent at quarterback. Chicago, if you're competent at quarterback with that defense and you re-sign Allen Robinson, just upgrade your offensive line a little. You can challenge Green Bay. So I'm a little shocked. We heard the Carson Wentz rumblings and the Matt Stafford rumblings for 4 or 5 days before they happened. We heard that Stafford wanted out. We heard that Carson Wentz was going to get traded. There's no new news on Sam Darnold, and I don't get it. I mean, I understand if you want to go big game hunting for Deshaun Watson like Carolina. But Chicago and Washington now are winning teams, but they're not teams that can give up the farm for Deshaun because they still have too many needs. So you could get Deshaun in Washington or Chicago, but you're mortgaging your future, and you're not good enough teams to give up a ton, get Deshaun, and win. But they're both good enough to get Sam Darnold, not give up anything, Washington could bolster their offensive weaponry. Chicago definitely needs another receiver back and maybe another tackle. So I just look at Washington and Chicago, and I'm like, you guys have winning records, playoff teams, great defenses, momentum. Get on it. Stafford's off the market. Wentz is off the market. And neither the Bears or the Washington football team, in my opinion, have the pieces or the ability to get Deshaun. They've got holes they've got to solve, so they can't be giving up 7, 8, 9 draft picks. By the way, yesterday, Lance Briggs, legendary Bear Pro Bowler, his thoughts on Darnold and doing something at quarterback.
We need something different in Chicago because what we've had isn't working. Even a Sam Darnold at the right price can give some sort of new hope, and it's really going to have to come from a veteran quarterback because there's a lot that needs to be shored up on this offense. There's guys that need to be re-signed. The offensive line needs to be bolstered. You got to be able to protect these guys if you're going to bring them in as well.
Coming up next, the single most disrespected player in the National Football League, actually in the last 48 hours, was shown a lot of respect by maybe the smartest general manager in this league. That's coming up.
Be sure to catch live editions of The Herd weekdays at noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific on Fox Sports Radio, FS1, and the iHeartRadio app.
At what point must we become a monster in order to catch one?
From iHeartRadio comes a mind-bending new original sci-fi thriller, Tomorrow's Monsters.
It's a safe application with one very simple benefit. You never have to sleep again.
Starring John Boyega.
When he began self-experimenting with his own mind apps, it changed him, and something else has taken over.
And Darren Criss.
We don't do what we do simply because we love humanity. We detest the weakness in them.
From iHeartRadio, Flynn Picture Company, Psychopia Pictures, and Upper Room Productions. Also starring Marley Shelton, Clark Gregg, and Sa'an Gauja. Tomorrow's Monsters. Available now on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to podcasts.
Here's exposure 1. Ready?
Good to have you in. Let me read this spot real quick here. I'm a little disorganized. Maybe it's the sweater. Hustler Turf Equipment, most complete lineup of residential and commercial zero-turn lawn mowers in the industry. With over 1,000 dealers. Visit hustlerturf.com, hustlerturf.com. I didn't know zero-turn lawn mowers were a thing. Apparently, it's very important. I don't like mine turning either, for the record. All right, so let me get to this. I think John Gruden, when I used to work at the other place, was the single most talented former player or former coach on the air. I thought he was a great broadcaster. A lot of the media critics, and what do they know? They've never worked in TV. John Gruden's great on television. He's a home run. The NFL draft coverage for ESPN has never been as good since Gruden left. That's not a shot at the people on it. They're very capable. Monday Night Football has never been as good since Gruden left. His quarterback camp was much watched. Gruden is a TV star. He's great. Tomorrow, if Fox came to me tomorrow and one of our big stars retired and they said, who would you do? I'd be like, Gruden. Gruden's great on television. And the media critics are idiots if they don't get it. He is juice. He is energy. He's chucky. He's goofy. He's opinions. He's great on television. But I've always said the coaching thing, he's likable. Like Pete Carroll. When we like somebody, we defend him. He's won 51% of his games. Mike McCarthy's won 60%. He has 5 playoff wins. McCarthy's got double that. But we don't like Mike McCarthy. He looks like a cab driver from Chicago. He's a regular guy. He's not very funny behind a mic. He's kind of uncomfortable, and Gruden's unbelievably comfortable. So Gruden always gets a pass with the Raiders. I saw this story. Derek Carr, you want to know who inquired about him? Who's the best young GM in the NFL? A lot of people think it's Chris Ballard of the Colts. Story out today, Ballard wanted Derek Carr. And the Raiders said, no, not Derek Carr. And this cracks me up. Derek Carr always gets blamed for everything with the Raiders. So Chicago and the Raiders both went 8-8. But Chicago's quarterbacks kept them at 8-8. Derek Carr got the Raiders to 8-8. Is anybody paying attention to Derek Carr the last 2 years? He's completed 70% of his throws. He got 48 touchdowns, 17 picks, and a passer rating over 100. He's the glue to the organization. What do you mean trade him? First of all, John Gruden's reputation as a coach is winner. His reality is his last 9 years coaching, he's got no playoff wins. He's the only coach in the NFL that's had 3 straight losing years, missed the playoffs 3 straight years, still has a job. He's the only one in the league. That's it. 3 years, no playoffs, still employed. He's the only one. And I like him. And I find him unbelievably likable. He walks into a room and he steals it. He sucks all the oxygen out of it. I was in a room in New York years ago. He just is chucky. He's big and he's verbal and he's funny and he's interesting and he's passionate. And he was always underrated as a television personality. He's great. Listen, I like Bill Parcells. There are a lot of guys. Joe Montana. There are a lot of guys that are great. They're not great on television. Gruden is great on TV. But this idea that Carr's getting in the way of Oakland, there's a million questions in Oakland. They have one player on the entire roster that had more than 3 sacks last year, Max Crosby, Vegas Raiders. They have one guy in the whole roster with more than 3 sacks. Their last 2 top picks have been busts. Henry Ruggs, wide receiver, is a bust. He was their 4th leading receiver. He was 21st in receptions among rookie receivers. He's fast and can't run routes. Okay, Cleveland Farrell, the Clemson kid, and I said it the day they drafted him, was a reach. He's got almost no sacks in 2 years. So I got questions about the GM. I got questions about the defense. I got questions about the roster. I got questions about Gruden. Derek Carr's the only thing I don't have questions about with the Raiders. So the fact that Chris Ballard came out and was like, I like that guy. He should. By the way, Pro Football Focus, Derek Carr, 10th highest graded quarterback. And that's, again, a guy that has to be in shootouts every week to win. The other thing about the Raiders, the last 2 years with Gruden, they've regressed badly after Thanksgiving. So I don't know what that's about. I'm not in the rooms. But post-Thanksgiving, the last 2 years, the Raiders have been a mess. Does Gruden coach them too hard at practice? Do they work them too hard? Are they too intense early and they just melt at the end of the year? I don't know. I don't have the answer. But it's not a good trend. The best coaches in this league, the Belichick's teams get better after Thanksgiving. Gruden's Raiders last 2 years, post-Thanksgiving, die. Except Derek Carr. So I love this story. Finally, one of the sharp GMs is like, yeah, we like Derek Carr. He is the life preserver. There's a million questions with the Raiders. Carr's the only thing I don't question. Alex Curry with the news.
Turn on the news. This is the Herd Line News.
So Deshaun Watson wants out of Houston, but the team is still standing firm in wanting to keep him. Now, Carson Wentz just got his wish of starting fresh with a new team. And after the trade news, Deshaun's personal coach, Quincy Avery, tweeted, "What's the criteria for a quarterback asking to get traded, then actually getting traded? Asking for a friend." Now, Colin, you had him on the show on Wednesday. He made some great points. He said, Deshaun's always doing the right thing. He's never complained. All he wants to do is be a leadership in a winning culture.
Yeah.
And it's just gotten to the point where the relationship has just gone so south. I don't think there's any fixing it.
And I don't think it's a total loss for Houston. He's off his best year. Mm-hmm. He's healthy now. Mm-hmm. You can get probably 4 first-round picks, a bridge quarterback, and another player. You can really set yourself up. What does Houston need? Draft picks. Yeah. You can get 4 first-rounders and a couple second-rounders for him. And as great as he is, he's had a couple injuries. He's been hit a lot. Unlike Russell Wilson, he does get hit. So this is not if we don't trade him, we're doomed. Houston can get a bridge quarterback like a Teddy Bridgewater and Carolina's pick to get their next quarterback. All is not lost moving him. And to me, if your quarterback's disgruntled, it doesn't ruin the franchise. When your quarterback's disgruntled, it seeps into every room. It's time to move him. He doesn't want to be in your city or with your team.
And if they play it right, everybody wins in this situation. Yeah. They just got to play it right. Moving on, Tom Brady was as motivated as ever to find success during his first season in Tampa. He accomplished his goal, winning an unprecedented 7th Super Bowl. And Mike Evans said Brady's extra attention to detail leading up to the game helped the team prepare. Take a listen.
He was texting us a lot of clips, lots and lots of film, and what to expect on certain down and distances. And he does that all the time, but just in the playoffs, and especially this game, he went above and beyond. Like 12 at night, 6 in the morning, people ain't up. He tells us, hey, this won't work versus this guy. You got to do it running like this. And the detail that went into this, and the extra meetings and all the hard work, it all paid off. And Tom was a great leader.
And you know what this reminds me of? This is the opposite of Big Ben.
Yeah.
Who doesn't do film study to a high level, who's not a great practice player, who's not committed in the offseason. If you look at Brady and Big Ben's talent, Big Ben's more talented, has been for years, but he's not as committed. That was always the knock on Flacco. Flacco was gifted, but he wasn't totally committed in the offseason or in season. Brady's greatness is so much about being all in the moment. It's not about the great arm. It's not about his mobility. The reason he is aging well is the exact reason Big Ben and Flacco age poorly. The amount you give in life to something is the amount you will get back. Tom has given his life to his family in football, and it's paying him back at the end of his career. And that's Russell Wilson, similarly. Russell spends $1.5 million in his body. LeBron James spends $2 million a year in his body. It's not a coincidence. Brady, LeBron, Russell age more gracefully. You're going to get back what you put in with your body and your profession.
Well, hearing that he texts his teammates at all hours of the night, I think just adds to the legend that is Tom Brady. And when Bruce Arians was on the show yesterday, he said he stepped into that bigger leadership role. He let him coach. And so maybe his way of leading was texting guys at all hours of the night. And if I remember correctly, he had his family leave 2 weeks leading up to the Super Bowl. So if you think about it, he was just by himself in his house too. So he was probably watching tape, thinking about the Super Bowl nonstop. And that's something he had to do when there was only 5 other players on the Bucs besides Brady who have won a Super Bowl before.
Yeah,
so it's a big deal.
I love when athletes give to their profession.
Yeah.
All in on it. By the way, you got about, on average, you got 8 to 10 years.
Yeah.
Just commit to a decade to something. That doesn't mean you have to spend less time with your family. Just go. I don't understand having the natural gifts. Like, I asked Tony Gonzalez this one time. I said, what percentage of football players did you play with that are all in? I mean, like the way they eat, the way they sleep. He goes, 3%.
That's crazy.
Can you imagine being physically good enough to be a pro athlete?
Yeah.
And then half-assing it? Be like, what?
Why?
What are you doing? And by the way, there's also, unlike a lot of professions, where you can work your butt off and there's no fiduciary reward, you'll get a reward for it. You'll get millions more if you work hard. It just seems to me so few Americans, less than half of 1%, are physically capable of being a professional athlete. Once God or whatever it is give you that gift, just go all in on the way you eat, the way you live, the way you sleep, the way you prepare, the way you commit.
Yeah, there's no secret recipe. Put in the work, take care of your body.
It'll give you back.
And give it 110%. You're going to do great. We're seeing that with the top of the top.
Yeah.
All right. Well, despite no Kevin Durant, the Nets are playing incredibly well. Last night, they got a 109-98 win over LeBron and the Lakers, who were also missing key players Anthony Davis and Dennis Schroeder. James Harden led the Nets with 23 points and 11 assists. Joe Harris added 21 points with 6 3-pointers in the win, and Kyrie had 16 points, 7 rebounds as the Nets extend their win streak to 5 games, which is their longest win streak since 2019. Now, we knew that all these players were going to be great individually on the Nets, but I think a couple of big questions are slowly getting answered, and we kind of saw that last night. Was the chemistry? Was there going to be chemistry between these guys? And it's there.
They remind me, they're a better version of the Phoenix Suns with Steve Nash. They're not probably. Brooklyn's the most offensively gifted team since the Warriors.
Yeah.
The difference is the Warriors, Draymond and Clay were elite defenders. So that's the difference. I think offensively, this is a top 10 team potentially ever.
Oh, yeah.
But what made the Bulls wasn't Jordan's jumpers. It was the Bulls are probably the greatest defensive team ever. The Pistons, Shaq and Kobe. You had the great rim protector in Shaq. Kobe was he was an all defensive wing defender. So right now Brooklyn is fun.
Yeah.
They're not great.
No.
They're really fun. I still contend Harden and KD could get to the finals. Those two alone. But if they don't improve on the wings defensively and at the rim, there's just going to be limitations. Golden State doesn't have any of these titles because Draymond no longer is a great defensive player. But Steph Curry never has a title if Clay isn't a great defender, because Steph isn't. So to me, I find them to be a fun NBA team.
Yep.
With little potential to be great unless they make a move and get better defensively.
They'll get them to the playoffs, but they need the defense to win in the playoffs.
Alex with the news.
Well, that's the news.
And thanks for stopping by.
The Herd Lie News.
Well, he's considered by most to be the best running back in the NFL. The Minnesota Vikings' Dalvin Cook is a 2-time Pro Bowler. We've talked about this a lot in the last year. He's too good not to be in the playoffs. He is now joining us live, brought to you by Mercedes-Benz, the best for nothing. He averaged almost 140 yards from scrimmage. That's a lot of yards. All right, so now it's off season for a running back, and running backs, you guys get hit, and it's hard. So what do you do in February and March, Dalvin? What do you do? You chill, you hang out, where are you? Do you just take time off and let your body rest?
Yeah, I'm down in Florida right now. I spend a lot of time with my family. I take care of my body because it'd be a long season, so like you said. And just a little thing that people don't think we do, we do it. I don't get right back into workouts. I got to give my body a little rest, and then once I get going, I'm going.
We were just talking about how committed Brady, Russell Wilson, LeBron, like they're gifted athletes, but they spend 7 figures a year on their bodies, which when you're great, you should. It's your body. Do you do stuff above and beyond? Because you probably play, along with linebacker, running back's the most physical position in the NFL. Do you do extra stuff? Your diet, your off season, your daily workout?
Yeah, I think being committed to this sport is the most ultimate goal that goes past the average athlete's head. And, just being around a lot of veteran guys that put me in position to, do Pilates, that took my game to another level, to start my routines, to lift weights, and to do stuff like that. You gotta do the extra, man. Those guys putting that much money into their body. Everybody's different. Those guys, playing at an elite level, and I think everybody don't need to put that much money into their body. Some guys just need to do that. And I think with me, just sticking to my basic routine, just lifting weights, getting faster, getting stronger, I take my game to the next level.
You ran for you were a great high school back. You ran for almost 4,700 yards at Florida State. You're a workhorse with the Minnesota Vikings. Do you worry at all, Dalvin? Because you carry the ball and you're such an important part of your offense. Do you worry? I mean, you just got a contract, so you got a lot of juice. You got your money, you're good. But do you worry about your workload being so heavy that it could shorten your career? Is that something you think about as a running back?
Yeah, as a running back, they paint a picture for us regardless. They shorten our span. Before you even get to football, they tell you, you got 3 years to play in the football league.
Right.
4 years. But, a guy like me, that put in so much work and that love the game, that's so committed to it. I feel like I play forever. I feel like, just being realistic, like, I know a running back, take hits and do all that, but, I put in a lot of work, and I trust my preparation. I trust the people that I put in place to get me ready to play, and each and every year, I think my game's gonna evolve to be something special.
Yeah, I mean, you're an interesting back because you do everything well. You guys you let go of Stephon Diggs, who's an unbelievable talent, but you go then draft Justin Jefferson, who is filthy good. How long did it take you to figure out, maybe it was your first couple practices, that you looked at this kid from LSU and said, oh my God, how long did it take you to realize you had an emerging superstar at wide receiver?
It took a conversation, to be honest. I talked to JJ, just talking to him. He was a kid that looked above, just the game. It's really about how you carry yourself, what he stands for, who he is, and you can see right now that he's doing the gritty, and that's something he brought to the game. Just being who he is, and I think JJ just his ceiling is so high. If he just keep being who he is and keep working hard, I think he could be one of the best in the game.
You guys are a well-run organization. I like your coach. You have a competent quarterback. I was shocked. In fact, you were the team I missed on last year. I had you as a playoff team. It didn't work. Explain what happened in the room. When did you know this year was not going to be special? What happened to the Vikings? Because it's not a lack of talent.
What happened to the Vikings in 2020 was, I think, us starting this season, we didn't adjust to the new life of what today's society is. We came out flat some games. We didn't get ready. Like if you look at the Vikings, some games we just didn't come out ready to play, and I think that's just due to us not having the fans and not having the people that. No excuse. We still NFL players. We still got to go produce and play the game, and I think that's what we started to adjust to during the season. But I think it was just too late. We just didn't get our groove. We just didn't get that continuity that we needed, and we had a lot of guys hurt. But I think this year coming up for us is going to be a big year for the Vikings.
All right, finally, you're going to be you are the owner. There's a new league called the Fan Controlled Football League, and you're the owner of the Zappers, Johnny Manziel's team. Okay, so first of all, I saw something on Twitter about this 3 days ago. What is this league?
To define this league is it's an opportunity. It's an opportunity for guys that's trying to get a second chance, that's trying to show the world, I'm still here to make plays, I'm still here to play football. Whatever opportunity presents, I'm here to do it. And, you got guys like Johnny Manziel, Anthony Jones, and all those guys that's playing in the league that's having fun. They look forward to Saturday to play football. And, I'm just happy that we're giving those guys the opportunity to play football again.
Dalvin Cook, NFL's best running back and new owner of the Zappers in the Controlled Football League with Johnny Manziel. Appreciate you coming on. Stay in shape. Enjoy Florida and your family, man. Thanks.
When we lose, we get booze. Thanks, Johnny.
All right. Good luck to you. By the way, I am not a conspiracy theorist. You know that. Okay, I say that over and over. I think conspiracy theories are nonsense. And I've got my theory on people who believe in conspiracy theories. And I don't have a conspiracy theory, but something does not make sense, and I don't get it, and there's no answer for it. And I'm not sure I should say it publicly, but I'm gonna. When all the nothing connects with an organization that was known as the most meticulous and well-planned, and now they've got no plan. Something is amiss in New England. Something doesn't make sense. I'm not gonna, it's not a theory. Well, yes, it is. I'm gonna go Looney Tunes and tinfoil hat. Something doesn't make sense, and I'll talk about it coming up next.
Be sure to catch live editions of The Herd weekdays at noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific.
Hi, I'm Hillary Clinton. I started my podcast, You and Me Both, because I thought we could all use a little company getting through some dark times. Now we're turning a new page as a country. So I'm talking to smart people with big ideas about topics like how to repair the damage of the last 4 years. And we'll also cover the fun stuff, like what's the difference between real life politics and what you see on TV shows. You can listen to You and Me Both on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Black Rifle Coffee Company, veteran-owned, premium coffee to people who love America. Go to blackriflecoffee.com/herd. That code HERD, HERD, at checkout, 20% off your first coffee club order. So, yeah, this is what I'm about to say. If you've never read about it, you probably will in your life. They always say you can tell when somebody's having an affair in a relationship because their patterns change and their habits change. You're in a relationship with suddenly she won't let you look at her phone. Or he starts working out a lot more than he usually does and losing weight. And, he starts wearing cologne more. And you're like, I've been with you for 15 years. And she starts showing up a little later, hanging out with girlfriends. She says a little more. You know when affairs happen because we're all creatures of habit. We're all creatures of habit. And when people's habits change, your partner, you should be suspicious. Keep your eye out, right? So, in the last 20 years, the most meticulously planned, obsessive, detailed franchise, always ahead of the league, never behind it, has been New England. Suddenly, they have no plan at quarterback. According to a report, they had no interest in Carson Wentz. Okay, so Matt Stafford said no. Goff, no. Wentz, no. So we all kind of thought New England. Brady leaves, COVID year, they're going to rebuild. They're going to get their cap space. They're going to get picks. They have no plan. So they have no quarterback. They have no tight end. No functional number 1 or 2 receiver. No great pass rusher. Secondary deteriorating. No star running back. They have a good O-line. That position they've drafted well. But they won games one way last year. This is it. Bill confused young quarterbacks. 5 of their 7 wins were against young quarterbacks that Bill confused. Darnold twice, Justin Herbert, Lamar Jackson, and Kyler Murray. That's what Bill does. Is Robert Kraft at least a little concerned about a coach who has a history of being petty and holding grudges, still pissed he had to get rid of Garoppolo? Is he a little concerned that of the 6 defensive coaches for the Patriots, 3 are Bill or his kids? They've got no plan at the most vital positions. The worst weapons in the league, in a league that's becoming more weapons-centric. You're not going to beat Kansas City with no weapons. You're not going to beat the Colts with no weapons. You're not going to beat the Rams and the Seahawks and the Packers with no weapons. What's going on? I'm not a conspiracy theorist. I'm not. But if I'm Robert Kraft, and I know a coach who was ticked off when Garoppolo got moved, that's the only time Kraft has gone over Belichick's head. Just think about this. If Belichick tomorrow, they don't even have their GM anymore, Nick Casario left. if Belichick left tomorrow, the defensive staff, gone. Flores gone. Belichick gone. Kids gone. No quarterback. No weapons. I'm not going to go X-Files here. Maybe a little, but it is weird. I'm not going to say sabotage. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying somebody give me an answer here. They have no plan at quarterback in a quarterback league. They have the worst weapons in the league. Belichick now has more power. It's he and his kids on the defensive staff. They've got no plan. Something is just off. And I don't know what it is, and I'm not claiming to know. But I just want it known, if something crazy happens and Belichick retires, Uncle Colin, who hates conspiracy theories, at least threw a little something out there. I don't know what's going on, but it doesn't feel right. The temperature in the room is off. Something is not right. Everybody wants to be an expert on COVID. I have no idea. I've watched it for a year. Decimate businesses. I will say this. Today is the first day I feel incredibly hopeful. 77% COVID plummeting. It's down 77% in the last 6 weeks. There's an article today that herd immunity and vaccines, and this is right in the middle of the winter. This is when we thought it was going to be the worst. This is February. You know, viruses all in warm weather don't spread as often. We know that, right? You're not getting it off surfaces. Warm weather outdoors is good to kill a virus. So it's down 77%. Vaccines are now available at a much higher percent. The governor of California, and we've been incredibly restrictive, now you can play high school sports as of March.
That's amazing.
It's amazing.
That's awesome.
For all the kids to get out there, this has been so tough on kids and families. You know, my kids are out of that space. My kids now, they don't want to be anywhere near me. So, but when you get kids that are 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, those early high school years where sports and social situations are so big for kids.
It's so important.
It's been so punitive against families with young kids. It's the first day today I feel like I see the horizon. I see the end of it. It's plummeting. The vaccines are out there. Some are speculating, Washington Post today, herd immunity is greater than we think. I have no idea. I'm just telling you what I'm hearing. But today I feel optimistic about, listen, man, this has been a crazy last 12, 13 months. Today I feel like positive. Today's a very good day potentially for America. And so it's not a political statement. It's just what I'm reading today makes me very, very happy. By the way, a lot of you are saying, Colin, why are you so goofy on the Carson Wentz to Indianapolis? You're way too optimistic. Here's my rule in life. I listen to successful people. If somebody that had been successful in radio management for 20 years called me and said, I think your show's bad, I'd listen. If somebody on the internet says it that's never worked in radio, what do I care? My financial advisor, my doctor, I rely on people who have been successful over and over and over and over and over. That's how I live my life. That's why trolls don't bother me. If you've never been successful in my space, what would I care about your opinion? What do I care? All opinions are not valid and all opinions aren't equal. So why do I like Carson Wentz to Indy? It's not terribly difficult to figure out because Frank Reich has been successful over and over and over and over. So Andrew Luck's most efficient year as an NFL quarterback was with Frank Reich. He had his highest completion percentage, his best passer rating, he was sacked the least amount of times, and the best TD interception ratio, second yards passing per game. So Andrew Luck, best year with Frank Reich. Carson Wentz had his best year with Frank Reich. He was 11-2. It was his best TD to interception ratio. He was sacked the least amount of times and had his second best passer rating. Reich was the Eagles OC. Even old, creaky, can't move Phillip Rivers. In the last year of his career, now remember, this is the last year. He had his fourth best win-loss record, his third best completion percentage, sacked the second fewest times in his career, and his sixth best pass rate. And again, that's at the end. I mean, Phillip didn't have much of a fastball left, and he did this. And oh, by the way, Phillip Rivers In fact, I put this down somewhere this morning, had his best completion percentage ever when he was in San Diego and Reich was the quarterback coach. So I've always looked, are you successful over and over at something? Whether it's a tax attorney, it's a landscaper, it's an accountant. If you keep being successful at something, I'm going to presume you're going to keep being successful. And Carson Wentz and Andrew Luck are very similar players. They're a little reckless. They're big. They take big chances. They're wickedly talented. They're going to ad-lib sometimes out of trouble and sometimes into trouble. Luck and Wentz are very similar players. I like Luck more than Wentz, but Wentz is super talented. They went to non-traditional football powers, right? They didn't go to Alabama, Ohio State, Oklahoma. So it's real easy. Frank Reich equals good quarterback play. That's why I like it. Again, it's why I don't listen to trolls. If you're not successful, why do I care about your opinion? I listen to successful coaches, successful tax people, successful doctors, successful broadcast executives. That's what I rely on for my advice and my opinions. All right, Andrew Whitworth, 15th NFL season, probably going to end up getting a lot of Hall of Fame votes. He is now joining us live. We haven't talked to him in a while. Last time I talked to Andrew Whitworth, he was protecting a different quarterback. So you got a different quarterback. So let's just start with this. First of all, I hope your off season's going well. I see a nice case of wine behind you. It looks like you're enjoying the finer things in life. Am I right there?
There you go. Hey, taking a page out of your book, man.
So let's start with this. You were close with Jared Goff. We both like Jared Goff. Were you shocked the Rams moved off Jared Goff?
Yeah, I think it's one of those things as a player, you're used to your locker room and the guys that are in it that you spent time with. And anytime there's a change, I think it's shocking to the guys, and you almost can't believe it for the first couple of days that it's going to be different. But one of the things that's always held true in my 15 years in the league is that it's going to be a different locker room every single time you come back for a new season. And it's just one of the things I think that's tough as a young player to get used to. And it's one of those that I think, the Rams decided the best thing for them to do is to move in a different direction. And as a player, all you can do is, enjoy the time you had with Jared. And obviously he's a great young man, wishing nothing but the best, but also get to know Matt Stafford and look forward to the opportunity they have there with him.
Okay, so Jared was well liked. He was a hard worker. People liked him. Are you concerned at all? Matt Stafford comes in, no relationships in the room. What do you know about Matt Stafford? What do you know about his style, his personality? What do you know about him?
Well, I think for Matt, it's somebody I actually know pretty well. One of his closest friends in life was my left guard in Cincinnati with the Cincinnati Bengals and Clint Bowling, and they played at Georgia together. So I've known Matt for a while and know what a competitor he is, and really his personality. I think that he's somebody that's been a leader. You look in Detroit. I saw here recently some guys who come out and said he was the most favorite teammate they had while they played in the NFL, and I think it's one of those things. You see him as somebody people gravitate towards, and I think he'll be pretty seamless for guys getting to know Matt and understanding what he's about.
Now, Sean McVay's system, and we know this, Andrew, almost as a general rule. Brady's the exception. Generally, you go to a team with a new offense, and it's the second year that it pops. So what will be that playbook with Sean McVay. What will be the biggest challenges for Stafford and your offense in the new playbook? What's going to be tough for him? What shouldn't be?
Well, I think that really for Matt, I think it's going to be that he's played in a lot of systems. That's a benefit to us, is that he's had some different coaches. He's been through some change there in Detroit. So I think he's got a pretty deep understanding of a lot of the offenses in the NFL. And for us, it's going to be getting used to him and his style, and maybe even everything from cadences to the style he likes to communicate with on the field and kind of understanding each other. I think that's one of the things as an offense that you get to. And then also with us, we do a lot at the line of scrimmage play. I mean, there's a lot of fast, up-tempo things going on. It's going to be how do we communicate with one another, understand the way he wants to talk about plays or maybe the way he sees them. And I think getting on that same page, that'll be something big for him coming in, is really playing in that up-tempo, on-the-ball offense and getting to understand the terminology that we've been used to. And if there's anything that maybe he likes to communicate in a different way.
When Sean McVay came in, he is this boy wonder, but then reality sets in. You got to win games and win your division, and you guys just happen to be in the toughest division in football. And then at the end of this year, I just talked to Les Snead for about 30 minutes the other day. He's like, the reality is the Rams now, the expectations are win the division. Sean McVay, win playoff games. Did you feel at the end of, because I thought you guys actually played well at the end of the year. You gave Green Bay a real fight. Did you sense at the end of the year, expectations have changed a little, Andrew? It's like, now you got to win multiple playoff games with the Rams. This is not just getting into the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, I played in Cincinnati, went to the playoffs, 5 seasons in a row, won a couple division championships, and it was all about win the playoff game, And here in LA, it's like we won that playoff game against Seattle, and it was almost like people were just like, good win, but not a real big deal. It's one of those things that I think our expectation is to go to the NFC Championship game and try to win it and get ourselves in the Super Bowl every year. And anything short of that, you're obviously upset even if you get to the championship game and lose, but we expect to be playing in that game for an opportunity to go to the Super Bowl. And anything short of that's not enough. And I think that's really where things have changed, is that those expectations continue to rise. And take nothing away from Jared Goff. I mean, the guy won 40-something games over the last 4 years. He did a heck of a job. But I think that the expectations continue to rise, and I think that's what the Rams are looking for when they try to say, hey, we're going to make a bold move and say that maybe this is what gets us over that edge to where every year we're competing in that title game.
By the way, you had missed 7 games last year with an injury. You could certainly retire. You've obviously done well for yourself. Are you going to play? Because it's funny. You were a topic of conversation the other day with your general manager. I was on the phone, and I said, "Look, I'm looking at your roster, and I don't think if Andrew retires, I don't think you have a guy behind him. Not that's left tackle's 3rd or 4th most important position on the field. Are you playing? Is Matt Stafford going to have you protecting his butt? I guess is what I'm asking."
Well, Colin, I'm one of those guys, I keep it real. So obviously it's an off season. It's you got to get. I believe that no matter whether you've played 15 years or 2 years, you earn your spot every week. And so I'm going to work with the preparation to play this season. That's the mentality and the attitude. But obviously everything has to go right, and everything has to keep moving in a great direction to be there and be able to play at the level that I expect. So yeah, that's the plan. But nothing's guaranteed. So I look forward to each and every day getting that opportunity to fight for that spot and leading this football team next fall.
You love football, though. You were pained not playing. You love football.
Yeah, I mean, if I look back at it and I'm real with myself, it's probably a little bit of a stretch to try and play in the playoffs. And, really, after talking to Dr. Elochoff, we really felt like it was a 16 to 20 week injury, tearing both PCL and MCL, and I played in basically 7.5 weeks. And, first couple weeks after those games, I was a little regretful in the sense of how good it felt. But, now it's getting better, and hopefully we're headed in the right direction and getting ready and getting healthy. And, yeah, I mean, I love the game, and it was one of the hardest things I've ever had to do to sit out and watch it, that's for sure.
By the way, personal question. I have gray in my beard, and you have gray in your beard. Are you the only Ram player with gray facial hair right now? Be honest, you're 39. Are you the only one?
The odds are pretty good. I don't know anybody else that's got it. I mean, we got a couple maybe that might have some blonde in there. Maybe Sean does. But, I definitely got to be the only one with gray. But I think that's been going on for quite some time. I'm in the stage of trying to figure out whether you try and hide it or keep it going or, just trying to make those decisions to look better.
It's good seeing you. We want you back. Matt Stafford wants you back for sure. Nice talking to you.
Hey, appreciate it, Colin. Glad you're feeling better, man.
All right, thanks, buddy. Rams offensive lineman Andrew Whitworth, 39 years old. He has played for 15 years at left tackle.
That's incredible.
It's an incredible accomplishment. 15. I just got into this conversation, Alex, the other day. I said, outside of the Chiefs offensive line, you think of the NFL as, the NFL's done a good job to keep their league safer. Tampa was totally healthy by the end of the year. Mm-hmm. Green Bay was just missing one player, David Bakhtiari. They were healthy. Seattle was healthy. New Orleans was healthy. Outside of the Chiefs' offensive line, their defense was healthy. Their weapons were healthy. Their backs were healthy. Cleveland was missing Olivier Vernon, but they were mostly healthy. I mean, it's for a sport that's as physical as the NFL. The Rams got Andrew Whitworth back. They were healthy. Just the Chiefs' O-line. That's it. By and large, your final 6 or 7 teams, you know what I mean? It's for as tough as this sport. I mean, I watch the NBA every night. Last night I watched the Lakers and Nets. There's like 4 starters not available. That's basketball. So maybe it's luck. Maybe it's safety measures. But the fact that Andrew Whitworth can play left tackle for 15 years, The league's doing something right. That's an unbelievable. You're facing the best athletes, the most physically daunting athletes every week, pass rushers. He plays 15 years. He's had one stretch of 7 games he missed. That's pretty amazing.
He had a great attitude.
Yeah, he's a great dude. All right, don't go anywhere. Oh. Remember when you told me Giannis was going to be the next LeBron? See what happened last night? All right.
Want more Herd? The Herd streams 24 hours a day, 7 days a week within the iHeartRadio app. Search Herd to listen live or on demand whenever you like.
So we're starting. We're rolling.
Are we already recording?
Look at that. You got notes. This is so official.
Hey guys, it's Brian Baumgartner. Now, maybe you've heard my podcast, An Oral History of The Office, where we go deep into the making of the show. Now, well, you can go even deeper. That's what she said. Because I am sharing my full-length conversations with some of my favorite people on the planet. The cast and crew of The Office. Guys, we share insights and memories that, even if you are a die-hard fan, you will have never heard these before. This is The Office Deep Dive. What were you doing before The Office started?
I was catering and I was babysitting.
People let you look after their children?
Not at the same time. Yes, they did. And guess what? He's alive and he's a grown man now and he's fine.
Listen to The Office Deep Dive on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Fox Sports presents Voices Season of Change, a look back at the 2020 NASCAR season and the impact of positive social change, hosted by Kurt Menefee, Jeff Gordon, Larry Reynolds. Fox Sports Voices tomorrow at noon Eastern, 9 Pacific on Fox.
Oh, it's my turn to talk.
Your turn.
Sorry, I'm just looking at some Dak Prescott stuff. Sometimes driving's great, sometimes there's winter and it's not. Like when it's pouring outside, sleet or cold, get Michelin wiper blades. They hug your windshield like Michelin tires hug the road. Get yours today on Amazon Prime. Maybe I'll get my act together here. By the way, I've got Sam Amick before the end of the hour, Eric Mangini last hour. I'm gonna hold off on this for a little bit, but man, if I have to hear Giannis is gonna run this league, 5-game losing streak in Milwaukee, and he's played all 5 games. You know who hasn't? Drew Holiday. He's not even the MVP for his own team. Drew Holiday is the most valuable bug. He's not the most talented. We talked about this yesterday. Don't confuse talent with valuable. My wife is more valuable in the family. I, of course, am much more talented. But value is often misinterpreted. Is that Giannis is talented. They're in a 5-game losing streak, and they've lost to bad teams. Why? Because he's a talented player with absolute limitations who needs lots of help from somebody else running the show. Drew Holiday's out with COVID or COVID protocols. They can't win. So this is what I always talk about. Kevin Durant's great. Warriors won before him. Warriors now with Steph back and winning after him. The Nets have been on winning streaks. When he doesn't play, Kevin Durant's talented. Valuable? I'm not saying he doesn't have some value. It's not zero and a lot. But this Giannis thing has always been, we're always saying that he's going to be the next LeBron. He's going to be the face of the league. No, he's just a talented guy. There is no next LeBron. There is no next LeBron. He's the greatest player maybe ever, and certainly in the last 15 years. Everybody kept telling me every golfer was going to be Tiger Woods. There's one Tiger in the history of the planet. There'll never be another Tiger. There'll never be another guy that takes over a sport like golf for 10 years. It's just, there's never going to be another Serena. I'm not saying athletes don't get better, but when you get these once-in-a-lifetime athletes, there is no other Usain Bolt. It's not like some guy's going to clip a second off his time. Like you just get these generational elite, you're not going to see it again. There is never going to be a Jordan. Jordan was a scorer. LeBron's much more about distribution and kind of engineering both sides of the ball. But there is no Jordan. Kobe was close, but he's no Jordan. There's never going to be another LeBron. So anytime Zion's not as good as LeBron. Giannis isn't close to it. Giannis can't shoot. Giannis shoots 82% within 3 feet. The minute he gets within 3 to 10 feet, he shoots 33%. That's his game. He's really good around the rim. Then it all dries up. He can't shoot free throws. He can't shoot threes. And I'm ranting. Alex Curry with the news.
Turn on the news. This is the Herd Line.
There's no next LeBron. Can we just stop saying that?
I'm with you on that one. We're going to get to LeBron in a second, but we're going to start with the big news that came yesterday. The Eagles traded away Carson Wentz, paving the way for Jalen Hurts to be the starting quarterback next season. But the job is not just going to be handed to him. Philadelphia reportedly plans to bring in competition for Hurts this offseason. Now, I'm all for a little healthy competition. I think it keeps people on their toes, keeps them from being lazy, keeps them working hard. But you just got out of kind of a messy quarterback situation, and the same day you come out and say this to your quarterback?
What is it saying? Is it saying Philadelphia overdrafted Jalen Hurts? You draft a quarterback in the second round, you're saying he's a franchise quarterback.
Yeah.
Now, you draft a quarterback in the fourth round, you're saying he's a project. But if you go in the second round and draft a quarterback, and by the second year, you're not sure, you probably drafted the wrong guy, because you're seeing him every day of practice. So, to me, it says, because I always thought he was a third-round quarterback. I didn't think he was like a second-round pick. So it tells me you overdrafted him. So you made the mistake of drafting him when you had Carson Wentz and puncturing his confidence, and now you overdrafted him and you don't really trust Jalen Hurts. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, you go find the last 10 years, quarterbacks drafted first, second round. I mean, they had to pry Garoppolo away from Belichick. That was the highest he'd ever drafted a quarterback. Okay? So, if you don't think Jalen Hurts is your quarterback, either overdrafted him or you're screwing up the quarterback room again.
I said it yesterday. You want to feel wanted. Everyone wants to feel wanted, especially the most important position on your team, a quarterback. And if they don't feel wanted, it messes with their confidence. He's a young guy, so it's going to be an interesting situation to see how that all plays out. But moving on to Anthony Davis, he will miss more time than the Lakers originally expected. Frank Vogel confirmed AD will be out 4 weeks after team doctors reevaluated his injuries last night. The team had hoped he would be able to return right after the All-Star break, but that timeline is now extended as the team looks to take a conservative approach in bringing him back. And I think this is smart. More often than not, we see athletes come back too soon and they re-injure themselves. Yes, it's hard not having your number 2 out there, but you still have LeBron playing, and it allows other guys on the team to step up and maybe step into new roles and get more minutes.
I mean, I just think Anthony Davis is the best 2 in the history of the league.
Yeah.
I've never felt you can rely on him. I think he's super talented. I don't think he has the personality, the drive, the toughness to be a 1. But we confuse that because he's so gifted, so we think he's a 1. James Harden, by the way, is a 2. He doesn't have the commitment. You can't rely on him. He's not going to play on the defensive end. Kyrie is a 2 or a 3. So we confuse, he's talented, he's a 1. No, LeBron's a 1. Chris Paul's a 1. Chris Paul doesn't have to be the most talented guy. He's a 1. Steph's a 1.
Yep.
And so Anthony Davis, to me, is I can't rely on him physically. I thought he had a bad year to start this year. Offensively, he was down in every category. So as long as your expectation with Anthony is he's a great 2, then it's all good.
Well, let's talk about that number 1, because LeBron James reached another career milestone last night. With a free throw at the end of the first half, he became just the 3rd player in NBA history to score 35,000 points in his career. The only other players to hit that mark are Kareem Abdul-Jabbar and Karl Malone, who are still ahead of him on the league's all-time scoring list. Now, I think this just adds to the legend that is LeBron James, and I feel lucky that we get to kind of sit back and have a front row seat to this. As you mentioned, this is a once-in-a-generation player.
Well, he's also really not known primarily as a scorer. Like, if you... LeBron's going to end up either the first or second leading scorer in league history, and he's really known as more Magic Johnson. He's much more of a facilitator than he is a pure scorer. There's a stat years ago, my favorite LeBron stat ever is a high school stat. So LeBron James, his junior year of high school, and I'm not exact on the numbers, but he averaged something like as a junior in high school, 25 a game. And he went from 18 to 25. So you would think his senior year in high school, he averaged 40.
Yeah.
He averaged 1 point more. in high school.
Yeah.
What does that tell you? LeBron's never been about just taking over a game and scoring all the points. He's always been a facilitator at his heart. That's the core of who he is. So, and all the way back to high school, he could have scored 40. It wasn't what he was about. And so the fact that he's going to end up the first or second scorer, and it's not really his go-to, that's one of his greatest arguments as the greatest player. That would be like Michael Jordan finishing all-time number 1 or 2 in assists when Michael was a scorer, and say he also had the most assists in NBA history. You'd be like, that's not even really his thing. When you can dominate something that's not your thing. Jordan was a scorer, and that's where all his numbers lie. LeBron is a facilitator, and his offensive numbers from scoring blow everybody outside of Kareem away. It's incredible.
I love it.
Alex for the news.
Well, that's the news.
And thanks for stopping by.
The Herd Line News.
You know, I've been saying this for the last year. I'm over the Dak Prescott contract situation. Pay him or not. About a year ago, I kept bringing people on from Dallas, and they were like, "Oh, he's going to get the contract." And I said, "Listen, if you date somebody for 8 years and you don't commit to a marriage, you're probably not going to get married. Like, you're just making excuses now. Well, we can live together, we can hang out. At 8 years, you make up. My wife told me, listen, you get about an hour, make up your mind. She just said, she was like, listen, you got about 45 minutes or I'm out of here. So, not that I'm not completely happy and wouldn't have done it anyway, but the point being is, commit to something or not. So my thing always with Dak has been, if they wanted to pay him, they would have. They could have paid him 4 years ago. They could have paid him 3 years ago. They could have paid him last year. They won't. They're not paying him. And the latest story is they're a long way off. But Dallas has a little bit of a dilemma, because I was thinking about this morning with Carson Wentz going to the Colts. There are certain divisions where the quarterback play is so great, you have to really constantly evolve. Take the NFC West. I mean, good God. You got Kyler Murray, Matt Stafford, Garoppolo, and Russell Wilson. I mean, Kyler is, numbers-wise, the least impressive, but he's going into year 3, and he's no question a franchise quarterback. That's probably your best quarterback division. Give me another division. How about AFC West? Mahomes and Herbert are elite talents. Derek Carr's damn good. So 3 of the 4, you're like, that's why Denver is already rumored to be looking to move up. They have to. You can't have the 4th best quarterback in a division. So it's nothing against Drew Lock, but Denver's like, look at our division. You've got the AFC South now. So Deshaun's still Houston. Carson Wentz now with the Colts. Trevor Lawrence is going to go to Jacksonville. And Tannehill. You got to keep up. If Tannehill's the worst quarterback in a division, that's a pretty good division. AFC North. Lamar Jackson's won 80% of his games. Burrow's clearly got it. Say what you want. Baker got to a playoff. Big Ben's the worst right now in that division, but he'll be okay early in the seasons. He's old and deteriorates late. Then you go to the NFC East. It's a clown show. You got Daniel Jones. Half of New York wants a new quarterback. Jalen Hurts, the Eagles don't even believe in. Washington doesn't really have a plan. You look at Dak Prescott, and it's like, the dilemma for Dallas is, if he stays upright next year, he is clearly the best quarterback in the division. Clearly. But when you pay him a lot, are you out of the Super Bowl race? So that's the thing with Dallas, is they don't have to compete against their division with quarterbacks. If Dak is healthy, easily the best quarterback. And generally that means guaranteed playoffs, guaranteed playoff wins. But I think the dilemma for Dallas is their division's so unstable at quarterback that they don't have to have the best quarterback to win their division. But if you pay him big money, you're out of the Super Bowl lottery. You're just not going to win it if you're paying Dak $35 million. But it is interesting. It's more leverage for Dak, is that, look around my division. At least, you may not love my arm, at least I'm productive and stable. There is so much instability in the NFC East right now that if Dak's upright, easily most productive quarterback. Again, if Dallas was in the NFC West and they had Russell Wilson and Matt Stafford and Kyler Murray, then you're sitting waking up saying, hey, we may have the 4th most talented quarterback. Then Dallas has some leverage against Todd France and Dak Prescott. Dak's got all the leverage. Look at my division. I'm the best quarterback. Who's going to give up the best quarterback in a division? You're nuts. And you probably are not to sign him. And again, if you sign him to a franchise tag at $37 million, you can't do anything. If you give him a long-term deal, and then you can start manipulating the cap if you're the Cowboys, play around with the money, give him a lot of guaranteed, don't pay him for 2 more years big, like Kansas City with Mahomes. Get 2 or 3 years out of it before you have to really pay him. But, God, that division is just a tire fire at quarterback. Sam Amick, update us on some NBA thoughts. The Bucks are a mess. How good is Brooklyn? What to do with AD who's hurt again? Cremo Barber Grade products are designed to soothe and relieve that beard itch. Tame moisturizing style. Comes in cedar forest. That's what I use. I like to smell like a cedar forest. Mint and cooling and more available at major retailers. Amazon and CremoCompany.com. CREMO. I love their stuff.
Be sure to catch live editions of The Herd weekdays at noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific on Fox Sports Radio, FS1, and the iHeart Radio app.
Hey, what's up, it's man Carlos Miller? It's boy Chico Bean. Hey, and we are of the 85 South Show. Man, we got some of the best guests, bro. We had 2 Chainz, Tip came, Jay Prince came. Yep. Everybody came. But guess what? You got to catch up on all the episodes that you missed. Like Fabo, Killer Mike, Busta Rhymes. Busta Rhymes? Yeah, he busted a couple rhymes. Listen to the 85 South Show on the iHeart Radio app, on Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Supplement I take every morning, M-Drive, powerful ingredients, backed by science, free shipping, 60-day money-back guarantee. Don't let age beat you. Refine your prime with M-Drive. It was funny, we had Antoine Walker was on the other day. Were you doing the show when Antoine Walker was on, or was that Wednesday?
I think it was Wednesday.
So we were talking to Antoine Walker, who won a title with the Heat and played for the Celtics for years. And he was talking about Giannis. And, Giannis has been seen kind of as the next LeBron. But he said, what Giannis, we have the sound of this. What Giannis is great at, he's great at. But he's got gaping holes in his game, and he's not working on us. Here was Antoine Walker.
If he's not in the open floor, it's very hard for Giannis to score. And he has to figure that out. His offensive skill level has to get up if he wants to compete with the Kevin Durant's, with the LeBron James of the world, if he wants to be in the championship contention. If not, they will continue to get bounced in the playoffs because of his lack of offensive performance.
Not a lot of finesse to his game. It's interesting. He shoots 82% within 3 feet of the rim. It plummets to 33% from 3 to 10 feet. Then 10 to 16, it's 30%. Then it's 27% on 3. So there's gaping holes in his game. And whereas, LeBron, he keeps adding little components to his game. With Giannis, what he's great at, he's great at. But you do hit certain ceilings. And there is a way now to defend him. And with that, Sam Amick, who's been covering the NBA for 16 years for The Athletic now, it is interesting, is that I can think a guy is great, Sam. I can love him as a player. But I can also say he's got a ceiling, and it does feel like with Giannis, when he gets to the playoffs, the game slows down. It's a little more situational. There is now a book on how to defend Giannis to some degree, is there not?
Oh, sure. Yeah, Eric Spoelstra and the Heat crew, wrote that book in the playoffs last year, and night after night in that series, we were confounded by the Bucks' inability to counter and Giannis' inability to counter, and then you're seeing that trend continue this year. Now, the Drew Holiday edition was supposed to fix some of that, and I will qualify this struggle right now. I mean, not having Drew is a very big deal, but to your point, Colin, 2-time MVP, a guy who, I voted for both times and Defensive Player of the Year, you expect him to be able to carry this group better than they are right now.
Yeah. It's interesting with Brooklyn. I watched them last night. I watched about half the game against the Lakers, and they got hot, and the Lakers weren't, but they're missing starters. It's one of those games I don't take a ton from. But I do think you can argue that Nets have 3 of the top 5 offensive players in terms of just, if we had a horse contest or a one-on-one contest in the NBA, Kyrie, Harden, and KD would be 3 of the top 5 guys probably. But you look at them and I think to myself, okay, what made the Warriors special wasn't just their offense. It's that Klay Thompson's a great defender, and Draymond in his prime was a terrific defender. I don't think this is a championship team as it's currently constructed. Do you see it as that?
I don't, but I also then project in the playoffs and say who's going to beat them, because we have a lot of uncertainty right now among all the contenders. The Lakers are scuffling without Anthony Davis, but that formula, high end offense, but top 10 defense is typically historically what you have to be a championship team. And the Nets are awful on that end. And I mean, Kevin Durant is a guy that I think is kind of going to have to be their savior defensively and play a lot of small ball and put him at the 5. And I can see that working, in short stints, but that's a lot to ask of a guy who plays like an MVP on the offensive end. And so they're so interesting. I can't remember a team with this kind of dichotomy. It doesn't mean they can't improve defensively. I think they can. It's funny, never thought I would hear this, talking to scouts about James Harden being an X factor defensively for them, because as much as the narrative with James has been that he simply doesn't defend, that in the post and at times when he puts the effort forth, he's a guy that is big and strong and has some ability on that end. They're going to have to fix it, but man, offensively, they just overwhelm you. And so I'm not ready to take them out of that discussion in terms of being a championship team by any means. I just don't know how they fix the defense.
Listen, I still don't think Embiid and Simmons are perfect together, but they're number one in the East. It's Tobias Harris has played well. Daryl Morey, he'll always say the right stuff, but in the end, I still don't think it works, but it's winning. So are they an interesting team at the trade deadline to you, or do you think they're just going to run it through with Doc for 1 year?
We'll see. I mean, any team that Daryl is in charge of the front office is going to be aggressive at a trade deadline. They've added some shooting that has helped on the offensive end with Seth Curry, Danny Green. Korkmaz has been good. The Tobias Harris thing to me, and admittedly I'm going to write about him in the next couple of days. I talked to him yesterday. I think he is an incredibly important part of their program because he's not known as a star. His numbers this year are all-star worthy. You're talking 21 points, 7 boards, 50, 40, 90. Honestly, I mean, who am I to tell Doc how to coach? I think Doc needs to let him shoot a few more threes. He's not shooting a lot, but his percentages are fantastic, and they're down a little bit from last year in terms of volume. So Tobias's play is big. He's trying to get better defensively. They're a little bit deceiving analytically. If you look at the record, they look like an elite team, and I think they are. But some of the advanced numbers tell you that they're kind of teetering and kind of pushing towards mediocrity a little bit, and the shooting needs to get better, and the defense needs to get better. I don't know yet what I think. And with Joel, man, MVP caliber year so far, but you're always holding your breath on the health front, just hoping that he's going to be available.
Listen, one of the few things I got right, I said Zion's body, don't outthink your eyes, that if he can shoot free throws well, he's going to live at the line because he initiates so much contact. I watched him at Duke, and I said, it's a skinny jeans league now. Nobody wants contact. It's a bunch of 6'11" guys that weigh 240. I said, this kid is Karl Malone, whereas he's just going to live at the free throw line. He's going to shoot 7 or 8 a night. And if he can hit 75%, he's gonna give you 25 a night. I got that one right. Are you surprised at how dominant? I mean, his numbers, he leads the NBA in paint scoring, I think, by a lot. Are you surprised by Zion? What do you make of him so far?
I'm not surprised. I was really surprised at the early season struggle. It was like it was a different guy from the guy that we saw last year, where in a small sample size he was transcendent and the kind of player that we thought he was going to be. So that small little hiccup, I don't know if you blame kind of the post-bubble fatigue or even the conditioning and the program stuff that got impacted because the league decided to start the season earlier than people thought they were going to start. Whatever it was, he had that blip, and then he got back to doing the type of stuff that he started doing last year. He's fantastic, and New Orleans is obviously figuring it out. And I'm curious, if you spin it forward to the trade deadline, March 25th, New Orleans is a team that had been pretty widely known to be out there with some of their players, but now that you're playing a little better, does that impact how Dave Griffin sees what he wants to do?
Do you think deep down they would never admit it, but this was the year it felt like LeBron, as an aged player, was going to kind of subtly hand the baton to AD? It's like, listen, we know it's LeBron's team, but big fella, I just got out of a bubble. I'm not getting much time off. And AD came out, Sam, and he didn't have a very good offensive year. He struggled a little bit. Do you think deep down in the recesses, the Lakers are a little disappointed with AD's performance this year?
Sure. I mean, it depends on who we're talking about. You know, Rob Pelinka, their GM, is generally kind of an uplifter, so he's certainly not going to either admit to that or maybe even has thought that. But I mean, it's hard to not have that be the takeaway. He's not been as dominant as he was last year. And with LeBron, in terms of, you know, I don't know what the Lakers thought. I'd be pretty reticent to say that LeBron was handing the torch because he's coming off a year where he thought he should have been the MVP. He went out of his way to tell us that he thought he should have been the MVP, and then that it upset him that Giannis got it. And so I feel like LeBron had another chapter to write in terms of wanting to go get another MVP award, which he's working on right now. But the AD component is big because when he was there, he wasn't playing all that well, and now you have a tough spot where LeBron is. It's a little bit like Giannis, where he's trying to carry the load, not doing very well. LeBron's doing a much better job, but this isn't what you want a couple months into the regular season, is for LeBron having to pick up the slack with AD when he's there or not. It's just not been a good year for AD.
By the way, a minute left. I've always loved Chris Paul, but he's not very likable. But he goes to the Suns, and what do you know? The Suns are now excellent. I think he's the most underrated player in the last 10 years. I think you get it, but I don't think players want to admit it because he's hard to get along with. How do you describe him? Everywhere he goes, they win. Everywhere.
I mean, he flipped the script. He comes out of Houston with the optics around him not being very positive because it didn't work with James Harden. I give him a ton of credit. In OKC, it worked wonderfully well. That success leads to the Phoenix move, and now you're seeing the same story in a different city. Devin Booker, DeAndre Ayton, learning from him. I looked at the splits today, about a 12-point difference on-off floor for Chris, and that's far and away the best on the team. Devin is having a good year. They're actually a little better when Devin's not on the floor, which we've never said about Chris Paul. He just makes guys around him better. He's embracing the leadership component of this challenge, and a little bit like LeBron, his best friend. He's got that chip on his shoulder of, everybody's trying to bury me and say that I'm too old to get it done, and we're seeing that's not the case.
Yeah, God, I love watching him play. He's so old school. He's feisty. He yells at teammates. He's my kind of guy. Sam, it's good talking to you. Keep doing your great work for the Athletic.
You got it, Colin.
All right, good stuff.
Thanks, brother. Be good.
You bet. Yeah, Chris Paul is way. I remember when he came out of Wake Forest and he was chippy, and he used to get in fights. Isn't it amazing that Wake Forest has given us Tim Duncan and Chris Paul, Hall of Famers, first ballot guys? There's nothing against Wake Forest, but it's. I mean, they're arguably a top point guard in the history. After Magic, Chris Paul's in a very short group, and Tim Duncan's as good a forward. I mean, he's in the Larry Bird LeBron class. I mean, little Wake Forest. How about that? Most life-changing sleep is about what's underneath. That's why I sleep on a Casper mattress. 1,500 perforations create a cooling system so effective you won't be awake to notice. Hour 3 on a Friday. Eric Mangini and I just got the notes. I get little notes before the interview. I think we disagree on everything today, which is exactly the way I like it. I can teach him a thing or two about football, which is really what I'm his mentor. He's joining us live. I'm sure he loves that. I'm sure he's giggling over that. So let's start with this. So I'm a believer, if you show me success 3 or 4 or 5 times doing something, it doesn't matter if you're a tax attorney, it doesn't matter if you're a landscaper, I think you're smart. So Frank Reich got the most efficient year ever out of Andrew Luck, the most efficient year ever out of Carson Wentz, and Phillip Rivers had, on his last leg, had one of his top 3 most efficient seasons. And I look at Wentz and Reich and I think, I know he's broken, but I got a track record of Frank Reich working everywhere he goes. I think he figures out Wentz somehow, and I think there are coaches, you know them, there are these coaches that are just better. They just solve stuff. So I think Wentz and Indy's going to work. You are more of a skeptic.
I look at this situation, and I think how broken Philadelphia must think he is. They're going to take the largest salary cap hit in the history of the NFL. They trade him away for what's very small compensation for a guy who was your starting quarterback and who you paid that much money. You paid so much money and so many draft picks to acquire him in the first place. You fire your head coach. That's usually the fix for a young quarterback. You fire the head coach. You see if the new guy can come in and change things. You hire the offensive coordinator, Frank Reich's offensive coordinator. So I think he's staying, because of that reason. And then you're still willing to trade him. So they just must feel like he can't be successful there. Okay, now that being said, maybe a change of scenery will work, but this is a guy who's had an injury history, who gets sacked at a very high rate, who's had problems in the locker room, and who's coming off a really difficult year. There's a lot of things that he's going to have to do differently and do right to have a different outcome in Indy.
So I want to throw this. You used to coach the Jets. I want to throw this at you. So in the AFC East right now, you have Belichick, who's probably the best defensive coach in the history of the league. Sean McDermott, excellent defensive coach. Brian Flores appears to be doing a really nice job. And the Jets are going to get rid of Darnold and go with a rookie quarterback. I say to myself, I would rather just keep Darnold, trade that pick, and give Sam more weapons, because I think Sam's got a market. Chris Ballard was interested. I just look at the division and I think to myself, you're going to go with a rookie quarterback with those three defensive coaches? You're trying to climb a mountain. That's my perception. Or are you in the camp of, listen, you got to start over. It's not working with Darnold?
Well, I don't know if we agree or disagree on this point, because I heard you talking about Sam Darnold being traded, and whether it's Chicago or Washington. And my thought process is, if you really feel like this young quarterback can actually improve, and you have the asset in place at the most important position, it makes no sense for the Jets to trade him. And like I said, with the Philly situation, usually you change head coaches and you think that's going to help the quarterback that's there, and that it's not a quarterback issue, it's a coaching issue. So yeah, you're absolutely right. If you can keep him and you believe that he has the potential to improve on what he's done, you've got incredible draft capital. You've got incredible money for free agency. You can trade that pick and get even more draft capital. I think if you could possibly maintain him and feel like you can win, it's the best decision they can make.
All right, here's the disagreement part. So
we have a lot of those, Colin. We have a lot of those.
Okay, so I said before is that there's, you always go on the internet or you read these in magazines. Like they say, the 3 or 4 signs somebody's having an affair. And it's always when they change their habits. Like people, we're all kind of creatures of habit. People they won't let you look at their phone. They're coming home later. They work out a lot. And it's like, oh, they're changing habits. So I'm supposed to believe the most detailed, precise, planned organization in the NFL for 20 years, New England. They don't have a quarterback. They have the worst skilled people in the league. Their secondary is deteriorating. They don't have an elite pass rusher. Half of the defensive coaches are either Bill Belichick or his kids. I look at this organization, I'm like, okay, you have all the answers here. If I'm Robert Kraft this morning, they just lost their GM, so Bill has more personnel power, and I don't love him as a drafter. At some point, if I'm Robert Kraft, I'm like, I know you were successful, and I love you, Bill. You tell me what the plan is, because I don't understand. Apparently, they weren't interested in Wentz. Stafford said no thanks. At some point, the market's drying up, isn't it, for a quarterback?
Well, what you said is habits and changing habits, and I don't think you can look at a lack of activity as a lack of a plan. And what's New England always done? They've never been first week free agency, pay big money guys. That's not what they've done. They've never rushed to be the first in any place. If anything, Bill's strength, his greatest strength, is in that free agency world, is in that acquiring pro talent world. And so much is going to change. We've seen, who would have thought Carson Wentz would be traded or Jared Goff would be traded? You see the things that have changed already in this small window of time. Over the course of the draft, they could potentially get a quarterback there. You could see maybe Garoppolo moves. A lot of guys could still move. They're going to assess what comes available as opposed to rushing to make a decision just to make a decision. It's not how they're wired. And unless they believe it's a significant upgrade, why would they ever go get a guy just to get a guy?
So you think Garoppolo has not only been hurt 3 of the last 4 years, but he's been hurt in week 2, week 3, and week 2, which tells you it's one thing if Mahomes gets banged up after 15 weeks of play. If you're hurt by week 2, 3 of the last 4 years, you're brittle. There's no other way to get around it. One time he got hurt without getting hit. So Garoppolo doesn't feel like a legitimate. I mean, Bill's not going to sign Garoppolo to a long contract.
No, look, I was just using Garoppolo as an example because of their relationship. And you remember when Garoppolo was there making that decision, you were in the New England should keep Garoppolo camp back in the day.
Yeah.
And that's actually worked out when they kept Tom. I didn't think Cam Newton would work. And they got Cam in June for basically nothing. And there's a fumble against Buffalo, and there's a goal line play against Seattle. Otherwise, that's a 9-7 decision. And this is a team coming off 8 players opting out. They've now got salary cap room. They have assessed. You're a year removed from the Tom Brady legacy. I think that things will look dramatically different. At the start of the season this year versus where they were last year.
All right, here's another disagreement bomb. I think Ben. First of all, Pittsburgh sold their soul a little with Ben. They've known for years he doesn't commit in the offseason. They know he's not great with film study. They know he's not always a great teammate with offensive stars. They know he can be dramatic when you draft a quarterback 4th round. They know, I've been told by people who I trust that their audible system is incredibly remedial. And they've known this for years. And now they're trapped. Because they placated Ben time and time again, which is fine when he's in his athletic prime because he was such a unique and special player. Down the stretch, Eric, he was old, and his lack of physical commitment was pretty obvious. He had 8 picks in the 4 games. He was terrible. I'm done. I think they're trapped. You still like him.
We're talking about young quarterbacks that haven't done anything, and then being traded to teams. And if they get traded to those teams are suddenly going to go to the playoffs. The Steelers won the division last year. They were 12-4. He threw 33 touchdowns. They were dead last in running the football. In the final game of the season, you can kill Ben, but they asked him to throw the ball 68 times. When you think of Steelers football, you think of really good defense, a really physical and effective running game, and then Ben Roethlisberger. Why don't they commit to fixing the running game and see what Ben can do at that point? And the guy's, what's he at, 16, 18 seasons, whatever it is, he's had 2 losing seasons. Two. So we're talking about guys that have barely had any winning seasons going somewhere else, as opposed to keeping Ben. You could extend his contract out a year so to get the salary cap number down without giving him any new money, and you still have a chance to win. I think they're putting the blame in the wrong spot here.
All right, we're just going to have to agree to disagree on that. I think he's an old man, and he looks. I am so old.
Look, a lot of people thought Tom Brady was an old man when he had a poor game. At the end of his last, run in New England.
By the way, what did you make of that? Isn't that just amazing? How I swear to God, Coach, in week 8, I had Bruce Arians on yesterday, and I said at week 8 there was so much turbulence. I'm like, this is a mess. And I asked him, I said, when did you guys kind of say to yourself privately, okay, this is working? And he said the bye week, like week 12, it took I am shocked by how good they were. You know what I'm shocked, Eric? How good the offensive line was in the last month. That was always been a middling offensive line. I thought they were a dominant unit at the end. What surprised you?
My greatest takeaway from that is they started to run the ball more. And they started to do things more in line with what Tom's always done over the last 20 years. They worked the tight ends more. They worked the inside part of the offense more. It looked like they were running things that I've always seen Tom run. And you heard the message from Bruce. They gave him more control. They gave him more leeway. And what do? You take advantage of the greatest asset you have is Tom's mind. And when he understands exactly what's taking place, and the other guys understand it as well, I mean, he's going to go to the right place with the ball. That to me was the biggest difference is allowing him to just almost take over the offense. And then suddenly things transformed. It is amazing, though. It is, and great. I love the story.
You know where I watched that game, Coach?
Where?
In a hospital bed.
That's not good.
I'm just on like a picture of American courage. Coach, you're looking at it right
You
here.
are. Your bravery is inspiring. It's like Tom Brady, Colin Cowherd. Those, I'm going to point those out to my boys for bravery and heroism.
Enough of you. All right, man, Genie. Enjoy Cleveland. It's snowing again today. Good talking to you.
Great to see you, Colin.
All right, good stuff.
Hey, what's up, everybody? It's me, three-time Pro Bowler LeVar Arrington, and I couldn't be more excited to announce a new podcast called Up On Game. What is Up On Game, you ask? Along with my fellow Pro Bowler, the man, long hair, Mr. Prince Charming himself, TJ Hushmanzada, and Stretch Armstrong, Super Bowl champion. Yep, that's right. Plexico Burris. Did you hear that? LeVar Arrington, TJ Hushmanzada, Plexico Burris, all on one show? Sheesh. You can only name a show with that type of talent on it. Up On Game. We're going to be sharing our real-life experiences, our real-life stories, people, loaded with teachable moments. That's the key. This show will break the mold and create a new way of thinking about athletes and sports topics. Listen to Up On Game with me, LeVar Arrington, TJ Hushmanzada, and Plexico Burris on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcast from. Tune in, people!
All right, Alex with the news.
Turn on the news. This is the Herd Line News.
Well, the NBA All-Star Game starters were revealed yesterday. You have LeBron James, Steph Curry, Luka Doncic, Nikola Jokic, and Kawhi Leonard will represent the West. And in the East...
All right, let me look at this.
Okay.
Okay, go ahead with the East.
In the East, you have Kevin Durant, Giannis, Bradley Beal, Joel Embiid, and Kyrie Irving selected.
Kyrie Irving?
Yeah, LeBron and KD led the voting, so they are the two captains, and they will draft their teams from the pools of starters in the reserves on March 4th. So what do you think of the starting lineup? You agree with it? Damian
Lillard, I'd probably start over Luka, although Luka's great too. I think Kyrie Irving. I love seeing Bradley Beal in there. I don't have a real problem with the East. They're probably not counting Harden because he played in the West to start the year and played enough games. So I guess you end up with Kyrie, but Kyrie's missed a bunch of starts. I think I'd probably go Steph and Dame. But listen, Luka's great and he's popular, and I get it. So the West has more good players. I mean, let's be honest. When Dame Lillard can't start for your All-Star team,
that's tough.
He's a first ballot Hall of Famer.
Are you a fan of the All-Star Game?
Yeah, I'll watch it. I'm not really into the shooting contest. Dunk stuff doesn't do much for me. I mean,
really?
I not really. It's not even. I'm not really into the game. I always watch parts of it. You know, I keep it on.
Yeah.
I think the only All-Star game I really like is the baseball All-Star game. For some reason, to be able to see a dominant National League pitcher against a red-hot American League hitter like a Mike Trout. I mean, you could have Walker Buehler this year, or you could have Trevor Bauer against Mike Trout. And you're just not going to see that very much. No. So I always love the first couple of innings of the Major League Baseball All-Star Game when you get the hottest pitchers,
the best of the best,
and the greatest hitters, and you may never see them in their careers facing one another. So that's the part of the first 3 innings of the All-Star Game in baseball I think are great.
And it used to mean something. The winner of the MLB All-Star Game used to have home field advantage. All right, moving on. The Steelers have not committed to Ben Roethlisberger next season, even though he has made it clear he wants to return. The team did add some depth at the quarterback position by signing Dwayne Haskins, and GM Kevin Colbert is looking forward to seeing what he will do in Pittsburgh. He said, "We are excited to see what Dwayne can do with us. It didn't work out for him in Washington. We had high grades on Dwayne coming out of Ohio State. He's young, he's a talented quarterback, and we're anxious to see what he can do once he gets here and gets working with us." And this is so telling on their feelings about Big Ben. This has got to be a gut punch because they just said the other day we're not committing to Ben, and now they're saying they're excited about another quarterback on their roster.
Well, I like Dwayne Haskins out of college too. He's big and strong and throws an accurate football. His thing's maturity. So for him, this is a really good move because the Steelers historically are grown-ups. There's not a lot of dysfunction. There is some drama. But when you're young and immature, that's why Kevin Stefanski was so important for Baker Mayfield. Stefanski brought him down, Baker had, I thought, his most mature year. He felt like more of a franchise quarterback. So for Haskins, he needs to grow up, and this is an organization that holds you accountable growing up, hopefully.
It does. Moving on to another young quarterback, Justin Herbert had an incredible first season in the NFL, earning the Offensive Rookie of the Year award. And with his entire career ahead of him, he's looking to build off his hot start by turning to none other than the GOAT for inspiration.
I think anyone should aspire to be like Tom Brady, to have as much success as he's had for as long as he's been able to do it. I don't think there's anyone that's ever done anything like that before. And to win, that's the ultimate goal of the quarterback position, is to put your team in a position to win. He's been able to do that. He's a competitor, and he finds a way to win, and I think that's the best part about it.
Love that.
He just does it right. Herbert does it right.
Yeah, he is really the Chargers. You know how good it is to feel? You know, we have 9 teams looking for quarterbacks.
Mm-hmm.
How great does it feel to be Kansas City or the Chargers, where you're like, oh, we're good here for 10 years.
Yeah.
You start looking around the league, you've either got like Josh Allen for Buffalo. They're good for a decade.
Yep.
It's amazing, Alex, how few teams can say that. Like, we're good. 3 words. We're good here.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's either the old quarterback or he's coming up on a contract. I mean, as good as Aaron Rodgers is, he's now 37. They've drafted his replacement. There's only about 5 teams in the league that can say this morning, we're good here for a decade, and the Chargers are one of them.
It's great. He said he was reaching out to Drew Brees when he got their former coach. He sent you a get-well-soon signed football. This kid does it right.
He knows who to follow.
He does.
I'll tell you that. Alex, with the news.
Well, that's the news.
And thanks for stopping by.
The Herd Line News.
Buy, sell, or hold on a Football Friday next.
Be sure to catch live editions of The Herd weekdays at noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific.
What's up? You know who it is? DJ Scream.
Big Bank checking in.
And Big Facts has officially touched down on the Black Effect and iHeartRadio. Now, Bank, you know Big Facts. It ain't for the weak-hearted, man. It ain't for the sensitive.
Big Facts.
We're chopping it up about real topics, real situations, and of course, you know, we having them conversations with the biggest names in the culture. 21 Savage is on Big Facts. Give it up to 21 Savage, What's up, Savage? What's been going on with you?
When you get to a certain level, it be like, all right, you got all the cards, you got everything. How can I help my community and like uplift my people? You know what I'm saying? You can have all the money in the world and still not be like, feel like you complete or like you did your job.
Ain't nothing bigger than Big Facts.
Nothing is bigger than Big Facts. Make sure you listen to Big Facts on the iHeartRadio app, on Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
You know how we coming.
All right, good to have you in on a Friday. Jason McIntyre is out skiing with his fam this week, so he's off today. So we're going to play a game of buy, sell, or hold. I'm your stockbroker. I'm your money manager. Alex asked me a question. I say, buy it, sell it, or hold. I'm not sure. Here we go.
Time to buy, sell, or hold. I'd buy that for $1. Colin will decide if he'll buy it, sell, or hold.
All right, we're starting Big Ben. Will he be the starting quarterback for the Steelers in 2021?
Buy.
Buy.
He's a huge cap hit. They don't have anybody else. Dwayne Haskins is not the answer. They went 12-4. He's still wildly popular with fans. I think it's time to move off him. I think you've sold your soul for the last several years for him, but he'll be the starting quarterback.
Sam Darnold will start the season with the Jets.
Sell. I think it's the smart thing to do. I think you can get, first of all, you got 2 first-rounders with the Jamal Adams trade. You can get 2 or 3 first-rounders for a Zach Wilson trade. Number 2, you could literally solve all your dilemmas by the 2nd round. But in the end, GMs and coaches like their own guys. He's 11-22 in his first 3 years with the team. I think they're going to move off him and have a rookie quarterback go up against Belichick, Brian Flores, and Sean McDermott for the next couple years and go 0-6 in division for the next couple years.
Odell Beckham Jr. will be traded this offseason.
Buy.
Yeah,
I mean, listen, he's got the 2nd largest contract on the Browns, and he's not the 2nd best player. And let's just be totally frank here. Baker Mayfield was better when he got hurt. That's not an indictment on him. It's a reality. When Baker plays with Odell, he feels a need to force it to his star receiver, and Baker plays much better, like Dak Prescott always has, sprinkling the ball around the infield, having multiple targets with a strong running game.
All right, J.J. Watt will be a Packer next season.
Hold, please. Biggest concern is J.J. Watt's putting it out there. He's trying to create a bidding war. He's one of the few, if not the only, defensive players in the NFL with a brand. Doesn't sound he wants a pay cut, and the Packers historically don't go into bidding wars. In fact, right now, the Packers are not the favorite on the betting market to land him.
Deshaun Watson will play for the 49ers in 2021.
That's a sell to me. I don't think it's a perfect fit. Kyle Shanahan's system is very run-centric. He's also said, Deshaun has said his top preference is the Jets because they hired Robert Saleh. So I still think the Niners run it back one more year with Jimmy Garoppolo. I think if they could engineer a move for Darnold, they wouldn't have to give up much. I don't see Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch wanting to start over 4 picks, give up multiple players. It just doesn't feel right to me.
So with that being said, Jimmy Garoppolo will return to the Patriots.
Hold, please. This is the only one that works. They don't have a plan at quarterback. Garoppolo knows the system. My concern is he's 24-8 starting in the NFL, and outside of maybe Darnold, I do not believe Kyle Shanahan is going to go to a rookie quarterback. Again, the Niners see themselves as a Super Bowl team. Are they frustrated with Garoppolo's health? Absolutely. There's no doubt they're very frustrated. We've seen 3 different stories that obviously are out there, probably for Garoppolo's agent to see. They're not happy with him. But just because you're frustrated with Kirk Cousins doesn't mean you're going to move him. Just because you're frustrated with Garoppolo, Niners have a Super Bowl roster. They get Deebo Samuel back, George Kittle back, Bosa back. So I don't see him going anywhere.
The Browns will sign Baker Mayfield to an extension this offseason.
Hold, please. He just had his first winning season. The Browns had their first winning season since 2007. I still think they want to see more. And my question with Baker is, okay, he had his best year. It was a little fool's gold. They were outscored as a team. And their wins were, 8 of their wins were against bad teams. And Baker has a little bit of an ego. Does he come off his first playoff win with 8 new commercials? Remember a couple years ago, he came out, a lot of commercials, put on weight, wasn't in the best shape. I want to see how he reacts after success before I sign him up.
I love his commercials. Dak Prescott signs an extension with the Cowboys.
Bye.
Bye.
Listen, they won just 4 of 11 games without him. They've won the NFC East 2 of the 4 years. He's been the guy. It's a numbers game at this point. Franchise tagging him's $37, $38 million. Can you get him for 30, 32? Stretch the contract out for 5 years. They'll sign him.
Derek Carr will be back with the Raiders in 2021.
That's a buy.
Bye.
He's the only thing saving the Raiders. 3rd straight year with 4,000 passing yards. The Colts, very well-run team, were interested in Derek Carr. He just had a career-high 101.4 passer rating. I think Gruden is realizing there's questions with the draft picks, the defense. There's questions about the Raiders after Thanksgiving. They've really disintegrated post-Thanksgiving last 2 years. I think they're 8-8 because of Derek Carr. I think he's what gets them to 8-8. I think with lesser quarterbacks, it's a 5-11 team.
And finally, Cam Newton will play for the Washington football team.
That seems like an obvious sell.
Sell.
I mean, they took his backup. Ron Rivera, I don't think was ever a fan. You know, it's funny with Cam. There's some value there. I'm not so sure New England's going to move off him. They haven't shown. I mean, Stafford didn't want to play there. They weren't interested in Wentz. Garoppolo, you got to sign a long-term deal with his history of injuries. I don't think Belichick loves Sam Darnold because he's dominated him. I still think Cam's a lean to New England. I really do. And I don't think Washington. I think Washington works with Sam Darnold completely. That doesn't even feel right to me. So there we go. Buy, sell, and hold. Want to thank Sam Amick with some NBA talk today. Dalvin Cook, great running back for the Vikings. Andrew Whitworth, Pro Bowl left tackle for the Rams. And Eric Mangini and I disagreed on virtually everything. Justin Turner of the Dodgers stops by Monday. I can't wait for the baseball season. Again, I'm being biased. The Dodgers could be the most talented baseball team we have seen in the sport in over a decade.
Oh, yeah.
They are stacked.
Pitching staff.
Trevor Bauer now, Walker Buehler, Clayton Kershaw, David Price. All right, Alex, thank you so much. You've
Thanks
been great.
for having me.
Thanks for being with us. We'll see you Monday in the herd.